The burning question today is, which top-end smartphone should I buy? And the simple answer is, there's no simple answer. I'm not sure exactly which is the best phone for you, but here are a couple of hints and tips about what you should look for in a top-end phone. Of the three top-end phones I have with me right now, which is the HTC One M8, the Sony Xperia Z2, and the LG G3, they all run very much the same technical inside. So the chipset on all three of these devices is the latest version of the Qualcomm chip, Snapdragon chipset, the 801. They've all got their Adreno coprocessor or video processor built in. They all come with between 2 and 3 gig of main memory, and they all have built in between 16 and 32 gig of RAM or storage for games, movies, music, whatever it is that you want. But that tells you very little about the devices. Each one has a personality of its own. They're very different, they look very different, and they all have a very, very different user experience. And in many respects, those are the sorts of things that you should look at. The first one I'd like to talk about is the LG G3. The LG G3 has two key standout features amongst all its other really good features. The first standout feature is the Quad HD high resolution screen. Currently the only one on the market, though we do expect to see a couple more before the end of the year. But right now this is the sharpest, most color accurate, and certainly the highest resolution screen on a smartphone at present. It's a 5.5 inch screen in a very tiny body, so it's also, of this bunch, the largest screen in terms of real estate. So for movies and games, it certainly makes it a very, very compelling prospect. The other key feature of the LG is the camera. It has optical image stabilization along with a focusing system based on a laser or laser radar type setup, which makes it extremely quick and extremely fast to take really good pictures. So if a good screen and a great camera, not the highest resolution camera, it's only a 13 megapixel, but a great camera and a great screen, along with really good build quality and good battery life, the LG G3 has a lot going for it. The other top-end phone on the market that's really a contender for one of the best out there is the HTC One M8. And what stands out about the HTC One M8 is essentially the build quality. There is no other Android-based phone on the market that is built to the same standard. It's full aluminium body that wraps all the way around a really high quality screen. It's an HD screen and it's super sharp. It's not as sharp as the LG, but you wouldn't notice that in isolation. Only if you put them side by side would you see any difference. What sets the HTC One M8 apart is the user experience. HTC's overlay on Android, called Sense, now in its 6th generation, is definitely the most user-friendly, simplest and most integrated interface that you're going to find on an Android phone. It hides quite a lot of the idiosyncrasies that are inherent in Android and makes the experience very smooth, very easy to use with minimal setup time and very little tweaking necessary. So overall, great build quality, speakers on the front, which if you use for gaming, for movies, or for video conferencing are also a great standout feature, which is really useful. The downside is of the full metal build is it's slightly heavier than the competition and slightly longer because of the 2 stereo speakers. But overall, a really smooth, highly polished, beautifully constructed device that'll give you lots of good use and lots of pleasure overall. The last device that I'd like to talk about is the Sony Xperia Z2. Now this device is very different in overall construction and feel to the HTC One M8, but in essence it's almost as well built. It has an aluminium frame with a toughened glass front and back. And what is really interesting, this particular glass is multi-layer toughened glass, and it's very interesting. Sony have even considered the fact that when you drop a phone of this quality, or any phone with glass front and back, it tends to be a lot more fragile than plastic, which is a high quality plastic that's used in the G3 and aluminium that's used in the M8. It is specially designed to absorb a lot of damage. So I've dropped this phone and I found it to be extremely rugged. The other key feature on the Z2 is that it is mil-spec waterproof and dustproof. So from a life experience point of view, this is a device you can leave on the kitchen counter, you can take to the beach, you can wash off next to the pool. You can even take a couple of pictures of the kids or the family in a pool, so if that's something that you want to do. And I must tell you, it's super liberating. When drinks spill on it, life happens. It is a wonderful thing to behold. The screen is also perhaps not the sharpest of them. It's still a full HD screen, and it's very good. I do find the M8, for example, is a little bit more vibrant, but the color accuracy really does come through, and it's a really high quality screen. The other feature that is really important that you should consider is how important camera is to you. If a camera is super important, this has the highest resolution camera of the top end phones on the market at present. It's a 20 megapixel, which gives you really sharp, high quality pictures. The only thing that I have found is that its low light ability is not as good as both the LG and the HTC. The HTC is really excellent at low light ability. This one tends to give you a little bit of fuzziness in terms of the pictures and a lot of noise, which is the graininess that you see. But in all other respects, in good lighting, it is an extremely high quality, very sharp, very color accurate camera. The technology of these phones is very similar. The operating systems of the three devices are all based on Android. Each one has its own particular overlay. Sony do their own thing, HTC have their Sense overlay, and LG stick to very, very vanilla interpretation of Android with their own little tweaks and add-ons. All of them are easy to use. The easiest of the lot is the HTC One M8, but all of them are slightly different. And I think if you consider the Sony is definitely the Land Rover or the Range Rover of the smartphone world, the HTC One M8 is definitely the BMW, sharp, slick and well built. And the LG G3 is the Lexus, slightly understated, not nearly as flashy, but with all the bells and whistles and cutting edge technology that you would expect from a top end smartphone. So comes down a little bit to personal choice. See which one works best for you, which one's interface talks to you and is easy for you to use, but all three of them are top end with the latest technology that smartphones can produce currently.